I invite you to turn in your Bibles this morning to Psalm 34. As I was thinking of a theme for this teaching time this morning, I think I came across this week or pretty recently just some statistics on loneliness. There are actual groups particularly devoted to tracking loneliness. And some of those started around the time of COVID when so many were isolated and it's become in some sense an epidemic. But some of these were taken already before, and I'll go through some of those statistics in just a bit. But I thought we would just consider the question, why are we so lonely? Thinking about our culture in particular, and this is not something that Christians are immune to either. The sense of isolation. We can have 100 friends and yet still feel lonely and alone in our struggles and our battles. And so we want to look at God and our loneliness. And where better to go but to the book of Psalms? And as we see the church just struggling personally with problems and difficulties in relationships and relationship with God, and praying and expressing those things in poetic ways. Let's read just the first part of Psalm 34 together. We'll have a chance to note some things from this passage in just a few minutes. I'm going to read 1 through 7 and then 15 through 18. So this is a Psalm of David when he changed his behavior before Abimelech so that he drove him out and he went away. I will bless the Lord at all times. His praise shall continually be in my mouth. My soul makes its boast in the Lord. Let the humble hear and be glad. O magnify the Lord with me, and let us exalt his name together. I sought the Lord, and he answered me, and delivered me from all my fears. Those who look to him are radiant, and their faces shall never be ashamed. This poor man cried, and the Lord heard him and saved him out of all his troubles. The angel of the Lord encamps around those who fear him, and delivers them. Verse 15, the eyes of the Lord are toward the righteous, and his ears toward their cry. The face of the Lord is against those who do evil, to cut off the memory of them from the earth. When the righteous cry for help, the Lord hears, and delivers them out of all their troubles. The Lord is near to the brokenhearted, and saves the crushed in spirit. Well, why are we so lonely? Loneliness and God. Let me just, first of all, share some statistics, and then we'll trace this theme back through the Bible in terms of some of the big themes from the Bible, and then end up by asking the question, what should we do? What do some of the statistics say? Wherever I looked, whether it was in the U.S. or in Canada, it seems like a rising social, mental problem within our society. So there's one index called the Cigna US Loneliness Index. I'm not sure which year this is from, but 3 out of every 5 adults, or 61%, report that they sometimes or always feel lonely, based on a survey of 10,000 adults. The numbers remain even higher for younger adults. Among workers aged 18 to 22, known as Gen Z, 73% report sometimes or always feeling alone, up from 69% a year ago. The study found an increasing correlation between social media usage, probably not surprised to hear that, and feelings of loneliness. 7 out of 10 heavy social media users, 71%, reported feelings of loneliness, up from 53% a year ago. That compares to 51% of light social media users feeling lonely, up from 47% a year ago. So the statistics are pretty clear. You could search out ones from Canada as well. This is sort of the most broad one that I could find. Now, I want to trace back the theme of loneliness. First of all, by looking at the fact that God made us for community. And then we'll trace it a little further back that God made us for himself. But first of all, God made us for community. And this is not just as believers, but this is all of humanity. We were made for community. Genesis 2, verse 18, it's not good that the man should be alone. So Adam is created in the garden, and immediately God says it's not good for man to be alone. So we were created to be in relationship with others. It's a creational reality. I recently joined a tennis club in the area, trying to get back into tennis once again. I've been playing since I was a teenager. And immediately you sense that you're walking in to a place that already has a sense of community, relationships that are formed. So you play on Saturday mornings sometimes, and immediately I was invited to go out to Stacked for breakfast after hitting the ball around for an hour or so. And you can see the relationships are there. They're joking with each other. They some of them go back like 30 years, I think. I played with an 87-year-old for a little bit a couple weeks ago. And no matter who you are or where you come from, there's a sense I need community. It's not enough for me to be alone. It actually feels rather dangerous and vulnerable to be alone. So this creational reality, we just finished a ministry called Life Renewal at our church. And I went through Life Renewal as well. It's a 10-step program, a biblical program to deal with habits and challenges in life. And you find yourself, almost for the rest of your life, connected to those people that you've gone through Life Renewal with. Mentors and fellow sufferers and laborers and journeyers in that ministry. We live in a broken world, and we're willing, in seeking out community, to risk being betrayed sometimes. We risk a lot sometimes by entering into a relationship with other people because we're not totally sure how people are going to treat us. We risk being rejected. And we risk being around people that we don't necessarily enjoy or get along with, because at the end of that pursuit is a relationship, is community, where we're encouraged. We find people that we share stuff with, and we also get fed by people that we disagree with. And it's one of the saddest things, actually, when you run into somebody, or you've experienced it yourself, where you find yourself backing away from a relationship because you've been hurt. And I've seen in the church, and perhaps you've gone through that for a time in your life. But God has made us for community, and we're not who we should be if we are alone. Let me just mention a couple of factors that have made this community more difficult for people in our society. Just a couple of kind of built-in parts of society that are kind of straining. Just think about a healthy family. Once kind of the foundation of a society. Healthy family units on decline, whether you're talking about divorce rates going up, or less marriages, or single-person households, and that can take away some of the strengths of relationship and community. Something that you just can depend on every day. That healthy, functioning, loving, supportive family home. And some are not in those kind of situations, and that can make you feel vulnerable, and it can be more of a challenge to feel confident with people around you that love and support you. Church attendance, we've all seen the statistics have been falling dramatically within Canada. I always think about the end of the book of Psalms. There's a collection of Psalms called the Psalms of Ascent. And it's basically the Psalms of the Israelites as they went up to Jerusalem to worship, or they went up to celebrate one of the feast days, or they went up to celebrate, Passover. And these Psalms start out like Psalm 120 and 121, and they're kind of personal, like this sort of personal faith, and I'm going up, and my eyes look to the hills, that's where my help comes from, but quickly it turns very communal. They're going up together. And you got words like, I was glad when they said to me, let us go up to the house of God. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. May they be secure who love you. And the sense of a people joining together in a common faith and a common goal of worshiping God and serving one another, going up to worship. What's replaced that sense of identity in the church? A common set of ideals and values. Well, there's a vacuum there compared to what others in past generations have been able to enjoy. Now, people do find, I know we're often critical of online social media and online relationships, but of course, there are some healthy connections you could make online. But they can't replace face-to-face interaction and friendships. So if we trace it back just a little bit, we were made for community. It's not good that man should be alone. That goes right back to God's good intent for mankind. But let's trace it back a little further. We were made by the triune God for fellowship with the triune God. Genesis 1, God said, "Let us make man in our image after our likeness." So there's a sense that within God, this Trinity, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, there's a relationship, there's a community of love right within the Godhead, and then He makes man. And God blessed them. He formed the man of dust from the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. So He's a God of community, and then He makes us in His image and His likeness. So we're made to be in community, and in particular, to be in community and relationship with Him. Now that's broken because of sin. Our sin has alienated us from God and from that relationship of love that you see with Adam and Eve in the garden. In a sense, mankind's been running away from a loving and powerful Creator for all of history. And it's the pursuit of man, especially in the Lord Jesus Christ, that brings us back into relationship, brings us out of isolation and alienation into a relationship of friendship with God once again. There's a new book out on loneliness. Last name is Abbott, is the author. And he writes, "Loneliness is a form of suffering which God uses for good in our lives to reveal the ache, the homesickness everyone experiences for a living relationship with God." So loneliness in our lives is a sign that points deeper to what we lost. And not just the absence of people in our lives, but the absence of a relationship with God or a deeper relationship with God. One of the things we tend to do in our alienation from God, in our brokenness, is we look for quick fixes for that broken relationship. We look to idols, we look to other powers, we look to even good things in order to get what we can only get from God. We might even look to human community to get what we can only get in a relationship with Jesus Christ. St. Augustine in his Confessions said, "O God, you made us for yourself, and our hearts are restless until they find rest in you." So God made us for Himself, and then in our brokenness and our alienation, He redeemed us for Himself. And so if you bring the gospel into this, one aspect of the gospel is that Jesus Christ came, left the glories of heaven, that perfect relationship with His Father, came down to this broken world, and as we celebrate in communion, in an act of great selfless service, was isolated from the Father for a time on the cross. You remember He cried out, my God, why have you forsaken me?" And God the Father turns His face away, as it were, pours out His wrath on His Son, and His Son feels isolated in the cross. He was already feeling in the Garden of Gethsemane, feeling for a time just the darkening of that relationship as the sin of mankind was being pressed into Jesus. You know, if it's possible, take this cup from me, and yet not my will, but your will be done. And He experienced the darkest sense of isolation from the one that He had loved and been loved by for all of eternity. And that's the good news, that because Jesus was isolated, We never have to fear being forsaken by God. Our God is that Father who continually runs out to us in our sin, in our failure, and brings us into a deeper and deeper relationship. His love is always something we can depend on. And he brings us into his family, into a life of community, not just a relationship with him, but then a relationship with his bride, with the church, with other fellow sufferers and fellow pilgrims. So we read from Psalm 34. I just want to use this as an illustration here for a moment before we move on to our final point. The background of Psalm 34 is David running from King Saul. So David's supposed to be the king soon, but King Saul wants to kill him. King Saul hates him. And he's fleeing for his life. He leaves his community. He's really isolated from Israel, and he hangs out with the Philistines for a while, which never sounds like a good idea. And he's about to be killed by the king of the Philistines. And in order to get out of town and get out of danger, he pretends to be insane. He pretends to go mad, and they let him go. It seems like he's at the lowest point of loneliness and aloneness. He says at one point that the Lord is near to the brokenhearted, saves the crushed in spirit. We might say it's David at his lowest. He finds God. God is there for him in his feeling of deep loneliness and pain and suffering. And the good news of the gospel is that if you're there right now, experiencing just a period where you are just feeling in the depth of your soul that you're not sure if God is there. You feel alone. You don't feel really connected to other people, your family, at work, in your friend group. You feel like God's distant right now. And the good news of the gospel is that Jesus Christ came to bring you into relationship with him, and it's never too late. It's always the right day, just to turn in faith to Jesus and to ask him to reveal himself to you in your suffering, in your pain. So what should we do? Let me just say a few things in conclusion here. Listen to God and speak to God in order to experience his presence in the center of your suffering and sin and pain. In the middle of his suffering, David cries out to God, "I sought the Lord, he answered me and delivered me from all my fears. This poor man cried," he says, "and the Lord heard him and saved him out of all his troubles." He acknowledges to God, "I was brokenhearted, I was crushed in spirit, and you saved me." So be honest with God in your experience of isolation, in your moments where you feel just cut off from people and cut off from him. In times in which it feels like you're offering up prayers and heaven just kind of has a closed sign or out to lunch. Keep on listening to God and speaking to God. Bring your suffering to him. Loneliness is an experience of great suffering. Trust the Lord to befriend you in your moments of isolation, to comfort and offer you friendship. And let the experience of loneliness be a time in which God draws you deeper. And Hilmer said this morning, we don't want to waste our suffering. And God doesn't waste our suffering. Let that experience be a gift from God to draw you deeper into himself. But I say to open yourself up to community. Don't give up on pursuing friendships and relationships with people in your family, people at church. We get, as a small group lead team, talking about small groups. Our church, if you're not part of our church, is divided into small groups. We meet weekly for Bible study, for prayer, for encouragement, and just strengthening each other. And small groups will give back feedback to us, and we've got a number of them that just love the fact that the young adults come out to small group. Sometimes the young adults feel there's not as much place in their age group for them in the church. And yet these groups are encouraged by the energy and the zest for life of these young adults. And then the young adults come back and tell us how much they love being there with 60-year-olds and 50-year-olds and the like. The different generations encouraging each other. There's a movement out there to like identify yourself with your pain. It's very ordinary in our day and age to kind of identify yourself by your suffering. I think some people have given in to the fact that I'm depressed or I'm an introvert, and it's important to reach out to pursue a relationship. We should not identify ourselves ever by our sin or our pain or even our spiritual weakness or our mental struggles. Not by who we are, but by whose we are. We belong to Jesus Christ, and we belong to a body of believers in relationship with each other because of what Jesus has done. And then finally, just be the church to each other. Be a place of truth, a place of shelter, a place that is always ready to encourage and envelop people into relationship. It's the best thing in the world to stand at the back of church and see people just enveloping new people or encouraging somebody who needs encouragement. It's one of the best things in the world just to watch what goes on a Sunday and then hear what goes on through the week as well. So be the church. Think of somebody who needs encouragement, who needs friendship, who needs relationship, and be the church to them. Be Jesus Christ to them in terms of being a friend. People aching to belong. Let this be a place of shelter for the countless number of lonely people out there who feel alone, who feels like nobody understands them. Psalm 68, the psalmist writes, "He's a father to the fatherless, defender of widows. He puts the lonely in families. He sets prisoners free and gives them joy." We went out with my kids and my grandkids yesterday afternoon because my grandson Finn wanted to go play baseball. So he could barely hold the bat up. He's just turned 6, but he's already pretty adept with bat-eye-ball contact. So he's already swinging that thing and hitting the ball. Anyways, that's not really the story. On the way home, I went ahead to put my youngest to bed for a nap. But on the way home, there's on Beach Boulevard where we live off of Beach Boulevard, Hamilton Beach, and there's a motel along that. It's a beautiful road, actually, lots of great homes, but the motel is not really that nice. And it's a place sometimes of crime and drug deals, and it has a little bit of that reputation. And as they went by, there was a scene of violence. There was a man dragging a woman out of the bushes, and obviously there had been an altercation there. And so they called 911. I think the police took 45 minutes or something because there was all sorts of stuff going on in Hamilton that day. And in the meantime, my wife and daughters reached out to her, and Christy hugged her, as just trying to encourage her and asking her what's going on and who knows what the relationship is. But I just thought about that. How much somebody like that, if they just experience a little bit of what we experience in our families. I know it's not perfect. I know some of you are suffering, but just a little bit of what we experience, the foundation of our relationships, the trust, the sense in which if we're in trouble, we got people to turn to. If she could just sense a little bit of that or experience just a little bit of that, how much it would just transform her life. I mean, ultimately, that she would come to know Jesus and know what it is to be in relationship with her Maker and her Redeemer. But also that we would be a place where somebody like that could come and just immediately sense a little bit, just a tiny little bit that would change your life of what it means to be in community with people who care for her and would love to help her. The Bible encourages us to welcome people into our normal lives and there to show them the love of Jesus Christ. As we heard this morning as well, the more you get the grace of God, the more you're willing to sacrifice for the sake of others.